I really wanted just to give you the benefit of 3 examples, because I'm not going to tell you anything a great deal different from what Chris has just said. I think it does come down to the people at the end of the day. 3 examples from 3 different businesses I've run working overseas. So starting off with British Mediterranean Airways, we flew to West Africa, East Africa, and basically all the stans where you could fly to without risk of getting shot, which wasn't too many. But what it did mean was that we were dealing with cultures and languages that were pretty difficult for us, and operational challenges that were pretty complicated. And the lesson that I learned about that was you've got to have local people on the ground. The idea of the fly-in expat who comes in and shares the brilliance of Western management with local teams, to my mind, has gone, even if it ever was relevant. And as an illustration of that, one of our bases was in Beirut. We were there in 2007, and I got a call at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you never want to call at 4 o'clock in the morning if you're an airline chief executive, because it's never good news. And the call was to say that the Israeli forces had invaded and were bombing the airport. So we got our planes out and we got our crews out. And of course, our team of 17 people on the ground was stuck there, with all the challenges that they had with their own families and the difficulties which you may remember from that time 7 or 8 years ago. But they stuck with it. They stayed there, and they ended up helping vast numbers of people who were trying to get out of the country, in addition to actually handling their own very challenging circumstances. They had commitment to the local operation, rather obviously, but went way beyond the call of duty. And I have to say, if we had a bunch of expats there, I don't think that would have happened. So that local knowledge, that local commitment in a particularly dramatic situation was immensely valuable to us. And it was a model that we followed in all of the countries that we were flying to, from Kazakhstan through Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and indeed a number of other Central Asian countries. And in just about all of those, we had exactly the same experience, that the local people were A, incredibly committed, and B, incredibly capable on the ground. So that's my first lesson, which is use local people, because 9 times out of 10 it's going to be the way to go. The second is an illustration from my time running LGC, which, as Ian said, is a scientific analysis business, 25 countries, I think, around the world now. And indeed, it's owned by Bridgepoint, so Chris and I have history together. And you may even remember the story I'm going to tell, and this is a story about culture. So we were looking at acquiring a business in South Africa. We didn't have a lot of experience of South Africa, but we liked the guy who was selling the business there. And he came to London to do a presentation and to illustrate his approach to acquiring sales. And we all sat round and were expecting an erudite explanation of how he built his turnover in South Africa. And he put up a video which was a bit David Attenborough. There were lots of wildebeest grazing, and it was all very pleasant. And then you cut to a shot of a wild dog, and the wild dog's tail goes up and it's spotted the wildebeest, and it chases after it, and it rips it to pieces on TV. And it was really fairly unpleasant. And we're all a bit shocked by this. And Francois turned around and he said, "That's our sales strategy. When we get a customer, we really latch on and make sure we get that customer." And it really just illustrated to me not only that Francois was rather committed to his business, and ultimately, because we did acquire the business, drove LGC sales tremendously well in both South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, but also the rather obvious point that you can't necessarily expect people who you aren't working with overseas to look at things quite the same way that you do. So culture, I suppose, would be the second lesson from that. And the final one is a very relevant and recent one. I'm now running Crown Agents. Crown Agents is the organisation who takes the aid money that USAID or DFID are looking to distribute, and actually is the practical means by which that is done. And, I have teams tonight out in Sierra Leone helping to set up the hospitals where we're trying to get on top of the Ebola outbreak. Pretty challenging situation. But a lot of the people who we've got out there are local people who clearly, again, have their own issues and challenges. And we have found that in addition to clearly supporting them in what they're trying to do, it remains crucially important to keep them informed about what's going on in the rest of the Crown Agents organisation, because we're in the US, we're in the Far East, we're in lots of other places as well. And so that communications point, that remembering what it's like to be 5,000 miles down the line with no idea what's going on in head office, apart from a stream of emails that tell you you should have your report in by the following morning, it's really important to remember what the guys down the line are having to deal with as well. So I suppose that would be my third lesson from these rather diverse businesses, which is that it's quite useful to travel and to get out, to talk to people, to understand what it's like from the other end of the telescope sometimes. So those were just 3 illustrations. Hopefully that's helpful, and doubtless we'll come back to that as we talk further.
Thank you.